and good morning, everyone. Welcome to a very special edition of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Ladies and gentlemen, normally we do this on Fridays at 10 a.m., but Mrs. Boomstick and I are taking a nice 4-day weekend off from podcasting, from anything outside of spending time with her sister and our amazing nephew, Tyler. And that's why we're doing this today on Thursday. Just real quick, next Thursday as well, we will be returning to the 10 a.m. slot because Friday morning, the following week, I have to bring my truck in for service, and all I could get was an 8:15 appointment. And if you own cars and you know that you have to have them repaired, or you go to specifically a dealer, you know you're going to be there 4 or 5 hours. So I'm probably not going to get home until at least noon. And at that point, my back's going to be a disaster area. So there's no way I can sit down for a 2-hour show. So with that said, we're going to be doing the Thursday edition next week as well. But listen, we do have 2 panel members here. We're going to get into the introductions momentarily. I am trying to find at least 1 or 2 other people to get in and talk about this Sony breaking news. Jim Ryan, once again, man, he has to eat the words because he actually announced that they believe in generations. And, well, I don't think he believes himself because, quite frankly, we have a report from IGN, of all places, that Sony will in fact be making games for the PlayStation 4 up and through the end of 2025, folks. That is pretty crazy. And we're going to get into that. And of course, the lead topic. We have information thanks to Matty Plays, who I'm a big fan of his work. Obviously, you know, he works with a good brother of mine in Lord Cognito on Defining Duke on a weekly podcast. Well, he has, he does videos like everyone, like Colt and Rand and everyone else and Dealer. And he had a video where he has information that Microsoft did in fact turn down KOTOR, which I find to be frustrating, a little disappointing. And of course, this comes out at the time where we have learned, thanks to a new book, that Phil Spencer himself turned down Marvel for exclusives. And that's how Sony stepped in, and that's how they brought Insomniac in on the conversation. And, well, the rest is history. And I have some opinions about both situations, one of which is understandable. And the other one is a bit of a head-scratcher for me. But, again, we do think that some things have changed because we have heard from the likes of Special Nick of Xbox Era and, of course, others. Skullsy TV being one of them. I'm a good friend of his, and he's a good friend of this program. And we had word that Microsoft is currently in possession of several exclusive IPs from Disney. So maybe there has been a change in ideology from Phil Spencer about licensed IPs. We know Phil's always been against that, and for a lot of reasons. We're going to get into that as well. Sit back, enjoy yourself, crack open your favorite beverage. Hopefully it's not a beer, because here in New York, it's 10 a.m. You got a problem if that in fact is the case. Get a coffee, get a Red Bull, whatever, and just come back and just chill. We're gonna have a good stream. We're gonna have a lot of fun. And like I said, we're going to try and get at least 1 or 2 others in here to have a conversation. But let's get into the introductions, ladies and gentlemen. First up, Web Dave. You've been killing it with your interviews. We'll get at the end of the show where they can check out the interviews and you've interviewed some of the community's absolute finest, for sure. How you been, brother? Welcome back.
Thank you so much, sir. I've been great, man. And oh my gosh, I'm excited to get into these topics. And I know you have some hot takes that we really.
Yeah, I do. I got some opinions, folks, that you're gonna. Some people may dig. Some people are like, yeah, boom, I agree with you. And people are like, boom, you're an idiot. That's fine, one way or the other. But speaking of not an idiot, someone with the best driving skills in the business, Fuzzy Belvedere, welcome back, brother. How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be here with you guys. Man, some interesting stuff to talk about today, so can't wait to get to it.
Definitely. Well, you nice save on that. That's someone who's not an idiot. I like that. Oh, goodness. Fuzzy, it's good to have you on, buddy.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Okay, sorry, I was typing. So I'm seeing if I can get Mr. Badbit in here. And we'll see if we can get him to pop in here to give us opinion about good old Jimmy boy. So let me pull up the story, because obviously we have to give credit, folks, where credit is due. This story was just posted 2 hours ago from IGN. Now, obviously, you know my opinions of IGN. Not a big fan of their work. I think that they rely too heavy on clickbait. But I'm not going to get into my distaste for IGN. I'm going to give them credit because they actually ran this story. Normally, when I have the time, I will go to someone, let's say, like a VGC, Video Games Chronicles. I do really like what they do over there. But I have the story in front of me. And like I said, I don't like reading from the phone. I don't like reading from the computer. But this literally is just broke. And it was written by Casey David Muir Taylor. This was written and posted this morning at 7 a.m. And the lead title, folks, says Sony expects to be done with PlayStation 4 games by 2025. Now, obviously, there's some conversations to be had here, because obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we did hear when the PlayStation 5 was about to be launched, Jim Ryan, CEO of SIE PlayStation, said to the world that they believe in generations, meaning that games that were going to be made moving from the start of the PlayStation 4 era, PlayStation 5 era forward, were going to be exclusive for that console. And obviously, you know, he couldn't have forecasted the world basically taking a dump on itself with the pandemic, right? So he does have some wiggle room out of it. But for the most part, he was pretty stout in his opinion about making or forcing PlayStation gamers to upgrade to a PlayStation 5 to play games like God of War, Horizon, and such. And of course, well, he had to walk that back. Why I wanted to talk about this today is because whenever Microsoft does something first, they always seem to really get beat over the head with the stick. No matter what it is, whether it's DRM, whether it is, constant check-ins for piracy, or, not leaving, millions and millions of people behind by allowing development for games to still be used on the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, the Xbox One S, as well, of course, as the new systems. And listen, if the community comes out and says a bunch of bad things, you're like, well, the community, it's the internet, kind of sucks sometimes. That's life. But when you see publications rally around the negativity that comes the way of decisions like this, you get a little disappointed, because these entities, these IGNs, these Kotakus, these GameSpots and such, well, they're supposed to be held to a higher opinion on things, and they're supposed to be professional. And when Microsoft announced that they were going to still develop for the old consoles for a couple of years after they launched the Series X and the Series S, they kind of got browbeaten by a lot of the media, which is very disappointing, to be honest. And that happened, folks. That was a thing. We talked about it on numerous podcasts. I do four a week. So you know what? Whichever one I talked about it was a conversation nonetheless. And here we are in May of 2025. We're a couple of days away from June, which we're all excited for, because June is E3 month, right? Or whatever month it's now going to be called, gaming month, whatever. We're hearing that PlayStation, who believes in generations, who really jumped on the bandwagon of, well, we're going to make games for our new console. Well, they're making games for their new and old consoles to the end of 2025. I mean, listen, I'm no mathematician, folks, but we're still in 2022. So that's an additional 3.5, almost 4 years, because we haven't even gotten to the half of the year yet. So for the next 3.5 years, Sony is going to be making games for cross-generational purposes. And admit that, I mean, listen, honestly, it makes sense. Like, I don't think it's a bad decision. I think I actually think it's quite a smart decision for a lot of reasons. One, there's 115 million PlayStation 4s out there. To me, it's leaving money on the table. But more so, well, they can't make PlayStation 5. So how are they supposed to move forward in their business? Well, they have to sell to people who have PlayStation 4s who potentially can't get a PlayStation 5 or want to upgrade for a PlayStation 5. So let's get the chat in and get your opinion. I'll read some quotes out there, as long as they're they're tactful and tasteful. But I want to get the panel, and I'll start with Web Dave. Web Dave, you read the story from IGN.
Yep.
This is a bit shocking. This is a bit shocking because when Jim Ryan dug his heels in the sand, he was pretty stout in his opinion regarding, hey, we made games for the PlayStation 4. You can still enjoy those games, but we're making a new console, and we want to make games for our new customers here. And obviously, they thought there was going to be a massive switchover, millions and millions and millions of people moving over from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, which is what you would expect in business. But at the same time, I don't think he saw that even forecasted until maybe mid or late 2024, there's still going to be trouble with these chips and the yield issues that no one really wants to talk about with Sony are contributing to this problem.
Yeah, it's definitely it's something that at the time when he made the comment, I'm sure he was pretty confident that they were going to have millions and millions by this point of the PlayStation 5s available, that they were going to have a big, huge momentum following off the PlayStation 4's momentum, and that they were going to be able to meet the demand and totally saturate the market with their systems and their product. But pandemic be damned, and then so that definitely threw a monkey wrench in there. So he kind of had to step it back a little bit, and then, like you said, the yield that a lot of people aren't talking about, but we've brought it up here several times. It is a thing. It's not like it's a huge amount of yield that is having problems. So it's not like it's a temporary thing or a bad batch kind of thing. It is the way they designed the chip to begin with. That is, the yield has to meet a certain standard for everything to run properly. And if it doesn't meet that standard, then that chip can't be put into the system. So they have to go to the next one, and so on and so forth. That's it is an issue that I'm sure that if any of the systems were going to do I guess a mid-gen refresh, they would probably try and possibly fix that issue. But even then, if they can fix that issue without a refresh, but just strictly a standard refresh, kind of like as components get to a certain place, and with the early Xboxes and even the Xbox 360, there was there's several different generations of power adapters, like plugs that that came in and stuff, that over the course of time is like, well, we've got these cheaper, better, more cost efficient, better running on the system, more reliable. And it's just they just changed it over the models. It didn't change the price. It didn't change the capabilities of the system. It just basically was an improvement that was on the back end. And Sony's done this with the previous systems as well. Not initially just that, but they definitely I mean, I don't blame him, or let's blame them for continuing to the product they have out there now to make sales, to have the games and stuff, but does that hold them back for the next gen type games?
Here's the thing. The one thing that you must acknowledge with Sony is their PlayStation 4 games look ridiculously great. Like
Yes.
that's not being a fanboy. That's not being, taking one side or another. You got to call a spade a spade. And quite frankly, God of War, looked amazing. Spider-Man looked amazing. Horizon looked utterly amazing on a PlayStation 4. And I would imagine that, God of War, Ragnarok, and and others after that are probably going to take advantage of what they've learned developing for the PlayStation 4. Now, I'm not going to suggest that. If you ask me where would you rather play? I'm going to play on my PlayStation 5 because, well, I have one and I want to take advantage of all the bells and whistles. I do like the adaptive controller and with the triggers and everything. I know people are like, yeah, I don't need it. I hear you, but I dig it. So I would play on my PlayStation 5. But with that said, Dave, to your point, will the games be held back in size? Will they be held back in FPS? Will they be held back in number of NPCs on the screen? That's an interesting question.
Yes. I just put in the chat, Casantes. He made a great point in the chat.
Let me read that.
Probably should read that. Yeah.
Well, actually, before I get to Casante,
Sure.
we have a channel member for 2 months. I don't know who it is, but it says, "Take my money. Yes, beer open at 5:00 somewhere." Good on you, brother. I mean, I don't drink. I'd rather have a ginger ale or a Dr. Pepper. That's me. But if that's your thing, brother, listen, hats off.
That's his name right there.
Percolator 9000. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't highlight everything.
As well, as a matter of fact, they had a great draft this year. My God, that quarterback. I think he's going to do great. Anyway, let's bring this back in. Let's not get sports in because people get mad. Gamers Play HUD Zero, generous friend of the program. Once again, he continues his generosity with an outstanding and ridiculous $10 super chat and says, well, I'm hoping that Xbox doesn't rest too much on their laurels. I agree, since they are close to overtaking PlayStation as the lead console this gen, even beating Switch surprisingly. Wow, yeah, listen, I think the stars are aligning for Microsoft for a multitude of reasons. It's not by accident. They're making some big moves. They're making some really, really intelligent and industry thought-provoking moves. And we've talked about that time and time again. But Kay Asante, good friend of the program, brother of mine, he says this: the CPUs on the PlayStation 5 were not originally meant to clock that high, but once they found out how high the Series X was clocking, they ended up pushing the CPUs, hence yield issues. That is absolutely correct, and that's why we had a story, and we're gonna cover it because, again, we don't have a lot of people, so we want to keep you here for 2 hours, and we want you to enjoy yourself. TCL, King David's #1 brand when it comes to TVs, as you know, actually put out a production slide, and they talked about Gen 9.5, and they talked about specifically upgraded versions for the Xbox Series X, S, and the PlayStation 5 Pro. So we'll get into that momentarily. But Dave, please continue your point.
It definitely is something that like I said, from a financial side, it makes sense to continue to make those games because they, Sony wants to continue to have a revenue stream, to come in, and especially when we have that many systems already out there, it makes sense. So I understand why they're doing it, but the other point, at some point they're going to have to move on, and are they making them till 25 because they feel like that's when they're really going to be able to start catching up on their demand? Who knows? But that, in my opinion, I think it's I understand it. Is it disappointing because they could not necessarily hold them back, but if they have to make a game that's capable of playing on the PlayStation 4, then that's going to limit just how intense it can be or how great it can be on the PlayStation 5 to some degree. That's my point.
And it's a great point. It's a great point. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, one of the things that we saw that people jumped on, if you're an old Bugs Bunny fan, and I've said this quote many times, piled on the rabbit, so to speak, for Xbox, is that it was going to hold back the industry. The whole industry was going to come to a screeching halt because Microsoft stepped in it again. and that's not in fact the case. Now there is an argument to be had that people will be like, "Hey, boom, the PlayStation 4 games, they look so freaking good. They're not holding anything back." And you know what? I would be hard pressed to argue with you because, like I said in the earlier spiel, Sony's games, man, they look and run really good on a PlayStation 4. There's just no doubt about it. With that said, we do know that there were lots of things specifically left out of Horizon Forbidden, not Forbidden West, Horizon Zero, because the console could not do everything they wanted it to do. And obviously, with the PlayStation 5's power and them learning the systems, they were able to add some stuff to Forbidden West, which. And again, that was a real buggy mess, and still is in some aspects. So again, it's interesting, but it just goes to show you how devastated the production industry is when it comes to these chips. That they went from we believe in generations to we're going to be making games for the next 3.5-4 years, which is just bonkers. It makes a lot of sense if you are in the business because. Well, they have to make money, Dave. So let's bring in Fuzzy Belvedere and get your opinion on it. Fuzzy, you are also someone like Kay Asante who's very technically sound when it comes to these kind of things. Obviously, the joke here is we believe in generations, right? That's the laugh, hardy har har kind of a thing because they were real. Again, he really dug his heels in the sand when he said that, and he meant it. And now, obviously this was in 2019. This is before the pandy. Now, Sony's in a bit of a pickle. They can't get PlayStation 5s out because of a yield issue. No one really talks about that. Like that's something that very rarely comes up in conversation, which is quite shocking. That they can't figure it out. And I know that one of the biggest conversations was how Microsoft paid extra for these chips to screw everyone else, I that's also unconfirmed as well. I just think that they have for every 1X they can make 2.5 or at least 2 Series S, and that's why, and they're doing it a little bit different than Sony. And Sony obviously they got caught with their pants down when it came to power, so they had to push the yield on these things, and now that's why it's failing the way it is. More importantly, though. What are your thoughts on this, dude? Does PlayStation releasing games until 2025 on a PlayStation 4? What does that say to you, man?
Well, it has its pros and cons, and I know Xbox took a lot of arrows for saying that they won't have a true next generation game from their first party for the first 2 years, which understandable as they get used to the new hardware, the games in development. So on and so forth. And PlayStation kind of went in the other direction, at least verbally. They were like, oh, we believe in generations. But apparently they believe in their PS4 generation more than their PS5 generation. But I think the biggest thing is, like you guys nailed it, where you're not going to ignore the 115 million plus consoles that are out there as far as the PS4 generation. That's still a big enough base out there that's still buying games that if you completely shut them out, especially when you're having hardware issues as far as being able to deliver it could definitely hurt your bottom line. I mean, the whole chip yield thing, when reports came out earlier saying that, and people were like, oh, it's debunked. Sony came out and said that they don't have an issue, but where's the PS5s? I mean, I know there's still some in scalper basements and stuff, but if they're not on the shelf, there's got to be a reason. And if you want to look at the chip priority thing, there's some on the opposite side that say, yeah, it's happening. And then there's those that's in the know that are like, no, because you can't do that for the fact that, I mean, you could try it. And then that company that's accepting the extra money can come up for, other charges or other issues as far as how they're, it's almost like when people want to talk about net neutrality and throttling and so forth and all the issues behind it, you can't really get away with that type of practice as far as paying to push your product more so than the other. Although there have been companies that have done so, your Walmarts and things like that. But All of that aside, when it comes to the games, making a game that's going to be a cross-generational game for PS4 and PS5 has its pros and cons. For me, I'm not as much of a fan, considering that I do have the new hardware. So I look at games like Gran Turismo, and yes, it still looks great on a PS4. It still looks great on a PS5, but you're limited to 20 cars, which scaling, yes, scaling can, affect the graphics. It can affect the visuals and things along those lines. But when it comes to, the memory for additional AI and all of the calculations that the suspension and stuff like that entails, you're going to be capped at what the PS4 can do. Like what Boom had touched on before with Horizon Zero Dawn, they didn't have the flying mechanic. They were clear in saying that they couldn't do flying because of the PS4. Now, Horizon Forbidden West has a flying mechanic, albeit it's kept until the very end of the game. So at that point, it's almost like it's a useless feature. But it's just one of those things where a cross-generational game is going to have some compromises to be able to work on the earlier hardware. Will it hold things back? As far as the full potential, it's hard to say. I think it will. Visually, probably not, but some of the other mechanics and things like that, I think it will. And if you're a PS5 owner and you were hoping to get that next-gen experience, you might want to tell Sony to reconsider their moves, but we'll see how much they listen to. I mean, they do tend to listen if there's a big enough stink made about stuff, but yeah.
Real quick, I wanna just mention Minish. Obviously, he's a big Sony fan. You could tell by his comments. I want to read it because he's bringing up a good point, and I want to address it. He says, "You guys with your speculation on yield issues. How is it the case that when $1 billion company is able to produce more PlayStation 5s than $1 trillion company can produce Series S consoles?" You see, that my friend is factually wrong. They have been producing more Series S than PlayStation 5s. That's a fact. He says this. He continues. Xbox only produced 130 more consoles in 2022. Sony had 5 million more worldwide. They had a lot more up front. They've been having trouble. And speaking of PlayStation, my very good brother, I love this guy. Best PlayStation podcast in the business. The most honest guy on the Twitters, Mr. Badbit.
What up, man?
How the heck are you, brother? How are you feeling?
Oh my God, I'm on a little staycation. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I got the call while I was making eggs, and I was like, "These eggs can wait." So it's on.
Hey, Boom.
Yes, sir.
Asante said that he can jump in for a minute. I didn't know if you saw that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna bring him in momentarily.
Himself?
Yeah.
That's
Asante
right.
himself. Yeah. I think he has something to say about that. But
sorry to interrupt
you.
I
do want to bring you in on the conversation.
Yeah.
IGN was reporting this morning that Sony has announced that they're going to continue making PlayStation 4 games until 2025. Now, I think it's smart. I think it's. I mean, business 101. I understand, folks. I'm not a business guy. I'm a retired New York City police officer. You want to talk about the law? I can help you with that. You want me to talk about games? I can talk about that. But I think from a common sense point of view, Joe, this makes a lot of sense. There's 115 million PlayStation 4s in the wild. They're currently having yield issues with the PlayStation 5. Why would you cut off a source of income from a console that can, and I talked about this before, Joe, and you'd appreciate this, PlayStation 4 games look pretty goddamn good, man. So why wouldn't you do that?
Well, I think so. Like just by I didn't go deep into the article, boys, and I apologize. But by just kind of using a little bit of my foresight, I'm thinking when they're like, we're gonna keep on making PlayStation games, they're meaning we're not gonna like cut off PlayStation 4 in terms of like. For example, they kept making PS2 games until what was it, like 2013, right? Like they continued making PS3 games until like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah.
So just by announcing like, they're gonna keep making PlayStation 4 games, it's not like you're going to see Spider-Man, who knows, come to PlayStation 4 as well, because they've been pretty clear that's a PS5 only game.
I believe they in several interviews, Wolverine as well as Spider-Man, because they're supposed to be very big games. Spider-Man 2 specifically because it's two heroes, it's Venom, it's a big city. It's
so much.
Yeah. Wait, it actually, and we're hearing that it might not even just be New York. It actually might be some additional, other places.
Yeah.
Because obviously they may even go to the jungles for all that. No, because obviously the big bad in there isn't just Venom.
That's right. That's right.
So please continue.
Yeah. So I think it's like you're gonna see like games like MLB The Show remain on PlayStation.
That makes sense.
Stuff like that. Because like when we take a look at the sales of like PlayStation 4 to 5 right now, they sold or less than 1 million PlayStation 4s in a quarter. So like people want PlayStation 5s, they want that experience. They understand. Like take a look at Horizon's a really great example of like a game that came out in February. Every time there's a refresh of PS5s, that game's going back on the top 10 charts, right? So to me, that's kind of what I envision that. When it comes to the yield issues, that's going to happen when you're making.
Now, Joe, just do me a favor.
Yeah.
Because we have Minish in the chat. Of course,
sure.
He's a PlayStation guy, which is awesome. And
what
he's
up?
Welcome. He thinks that we are over-exaggerating when it comes to the yield issues. Can you clarify that for us, please?
Yeah, so the way I understand it, I'm no expert on it whatsoever, but pretty much what happens is when you're making chips, you're going to have chips that are, not to say defective, but not as useful, or they don't hit a certain threshold that they should be hitting. So in that case, that's why like you'll have like, forever, let's just say you get they come in like trays. You get like a tray of 50 chips. Maybe 7 of the 50 don't meet the requirements, and those get tossed. And the reason why Sony's moving to the 6 nanometer chip is because you can fit more chips on
and
that.
You can stretch, you can boost it the way they need it to do.
Exactly. So pretty much instead of 50, you're making, let's just say, on a tray, you're making 70. Instead. Right. And then maybe you get like 8 or 9 that are, not sufficient, and those get tossed. That's just standard though. That's like literally for every business out there. Yeah. Sony's having, and every company's having a really, 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 really hard time right now because silicon is incredibly hard to get and hard to manufacture at the moment.
So
because
Joe,
of the whole
can I add a small piece to that puzzle of yours? And you spelled it out absolutely well, perfectly well.
Thanks.
The piece of the puzzle that I will add to it that makes it doubly difficult for them is they originally built. They spoke with AMD. They spoke with their what do you call it, motherboard manufacturers. They give you we need A and B for C being the PS5, right?
Yeah.
And while they were midway through, they saw the competitor has way more as far as standard clock speed than they do. So instead of re-engineering the whole thing so they can have standard throughput like their competitor, they went, give us what we have now, but squeeze that processor so it's even more than it can be. So instead of having a stable clock, it's like this now. Variable clock, really, really fast. And in that world, it makes your yield issues even more complicated because what you have to hit is a standard fare, right? PlayStation, Xbox, they have wafers, and on each wafer, there are a bunch of different system on chips, right? And if you get a good one, it's a Series X. If you get a bad one, I wouldn't even say it's a bad one, but if they're clock less,
it just doesn't hit the parameters that they need. It's a Series S. That is correct.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they can do more with their deficiencies. People remember Intel, Pentium versus Celeron. Yeah, the good one was a Pentium. The bad one was a Celeron. They don't get rid of anything.
Can I please
just resell it for cheaper?
I want to add something to this amazing conversation that we're having. Kirby Zero Louise, good friend of this program, generous friend, also a developer. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he says AMD sells dud PS5 chips as their 4700S desktop kit. LLT has a video on this. If you
never get rid of anything.
There you go.
If it hits the standard, it's what they meant to use it for. If they don't hit the standard, they'll find a different verbiage for it.
Someone else is going to use that chip, of course.
It's kind of like using every part of the cow.
Every part of the cow. That's right. 100%. It's every part of the cow.
I love it. That's great.
100%.
So,
but
it's this. What's happening right now is normal. These things happen. It's not negative. It's literally just that's the way it always has been. So
it's more in the news now because of the world.
Yeah, because everything's harder to make and it's harder to manufacture. It's harder to get those materials. That's why, PlayStation's like, when it's available, we sell, 1,000 PS5s every minute or something like that. It's like, yeah, of course, because you can't put these things in stores. You're only getting them via like PlayStation Direct, those website queues. So it's like,
dude, I'm going to say this. This isn't this conversation that we're currently having is such an adult conversation. It's not we hate PlayStation or PlayStation versus Xbox.
Yeah.
If I say this to everybody, if you are someone that can afford to own all three, my God, please go and do it. Because the same way I'm playing Halo, which I have to announce this because Mr. Badbit is here. Mr. Badbit, you can be so proud of me.
Yeah.
I am about to hit level 99 in my battle pass.
Nice.
I'm going to finish my battle pass. It is the first battle pass I've ever finished, and it's Halo, and that's why I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I'm addicted like crack cocaine, brother. I can't stop.
The new control mode is stellar.
Yeah, the land grab is amazing.
Land grab, there you go.
It's amazing, dude. It's so chaotic. If you want to play Halo and you want to just laugh your balls off. Shaving balls, because obviously,
here we go.
We are supported, folks, by a very good friend of the program, and that would be Manscaped. And if you want to shave those balls like I do each and every week, you can go to manscaped.com and go to checkout and type in DBG20 for saving not only 20%, but free shipping on your entire order. And there you go. There's my spiel. But anyway, just reeling this back in. I'm so glad that we have the panel we have here because we are going to be talking. Joe, I got some opinions about Xbox that some people are going to get a little twisted in the panties about because we have and I want to roll into that story.
Is it about Game Pass? Because I swear to God, you're not prepared.
Can I have a quick minute though?
Take all the minutes you want, please.
I hear people in the chat getting a little bit salty because of the things that are being said. Just to be absolutely clear. And this is with respect to, last gen game versus next gen game and all of this. All of this means that PlayStation's developers are freaking geniuses. They are wizards.
Yes, okay? They are.
Because none of you, and when I say that, it sounds pejorative, but it's not. None of you folks who love the games should care anything about this. Why? Because they use the equivalent of a calculator to give you The Last of Us Part 2. Okay, that's what they did.
The best looking game on that console. Ever. I didn't like the story, but you cannot.
It's the best looking thing on earth. Have you seen Ghost of Tsushima? Like Chef's Kiss, right?
Yeah.
And they did that on the equivalent of a Furby hardware. Forget about it. So those of us who are all techie, geeky dudes want to see them push the envelope with the new and the newest, latest, best, right? NLB, that's what I call it, the newest, latest, best. But for you have no concern. Because even if you give them an Abacus hardware, they will churn out the best that they possibly can. And they've proven that over and over and over again. Will you see real next gen versus next gen aware? You shouldn't care. I care because I just want to see them push that envelope. I want to see the bounds of the SSD speeds. I want to see when the floor becomes the next gen CPU. How complicated can they make that world, right? Yep. That's just from my techie, my techno lust, if you will.
At the end of the day, we're all nerds, right?
That's right.
Sorry, I'm a tech nerd.
But don't get it twisted though. Doesn't mean they're using old hardware, so they're crap. Hell no, not at all. Right?
And Asante, I'm sorry, go for it. Finish your point. I'm sorry. I'm getting excited.
I was just going to say my last point that I made every time they say this, right? And I was the first to say, yep, the Series X has better hardware. But just because you have the best hammer doesn't mean you build the best house. Experience matters more.
Right?
Yeah. They have the best hammers. Hands down. Means nothing. to the end product, right? The people that are churning the butter, the people with the experience that are making the games, they matter more than the hardware they use. You buy the best Nikes, and Jordan will still dunk on you, even though he's retired. It's about the people making the thing, right?
Yeah.
Please continue.
No, and to be on that point, just to stay on it for just a sec. To me, here's the hot take. I had a hot take last week. I'm gonna have a hot take now, so everybody yells at me. There's like maybe 2 or 3 games that are actually next gen for both, like combined PlayStation and Xbox.
Barely.
And it's, guess what? It's all great. Elden Ring is one of the greatest. Yeah. Elden Ring's one of the greatest games ever made. That is being run on a goddamn toaster. You know, like we have to. You're right. Just because you have the best hammer, just because you have all the teraflops, teraflips, and teraskips, doesn't mean jack if the games aren't good. Right? If the games don't hit, and luckily we're in a spot where these studios are getting just more and more talented. They're getting more and more budget. And yeah, they're able to squeeze a lot out of the lemon that has been the Xbox One and the PS4.
Look at Nintendo.
It's fine.
They're squeezing like blood out of a stone that turned to dust years ago that has been resurrected and still keeps giving you more and more juice on that piece of crap hardware. But they're still shining.
Which by all rights,
will run on that same
hardware.
toaster.
The Switch hardware is literally like a cell phone. It's terrible. Yeah.
Yes. If you bought a cell phone like in the last 2 years, you have more powerful hardware in your pocket than the Switch ever did.
And do you know I play the Switch with Mrs. Boom every day? Every day we play Animal Crossing, and I'm just addicted.
And that doesn't. That's not us saying like, listen, it's not sad that like. We're not bummed out that Starfield isn't here. Like, we're not like, I don't know, bummed out that.
Not at all.
These things happen, brother.
It's fine. These things happen. It's the state of the world. There has to be, to me, more understanding. The reason why developers don't want to talk to you is you yell at them all the time.
Yes. That's a great point, Joe. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's fact. Like, I've talked to many of them behind the scenes. Y'all just yell at them. So, like, just simmer down. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fine. These games are going to be great. We have I have no degree in coding. This is all magic to me, what they're doing on these screens. And I'm enjoying my time. There's been fantastic games, just
just to add to that conversation. I mean, listen, I'm maybe I'm talking from an entitled gamer's point of view. I own all 3 consoles. So I'm constantly buying games. I'm constantly playing something. Like right now, I have almost 10 days in Halo. It's all I'm playing right now, and it's fine. Animal Crossing, Halo is what I do on a daily basis. But at any moment, I could turn on my PlayStation 5 and play Sifu, or I can turn on my Xbox and play Trek to Yomi, or turn on my Switch and play the new Kirby open world game. Yeah. So there are games to be played, and there are going to be a significant amount more delays.
For those who are complaining about all of this, the point that we're trying to make is, for everyone, substance is king. The content is king.
Yes.
For people like me who want to see the edge cases, we'll complain when real, quote unquote, real next gen isn't achieved, but that's just our complaints. It shouldn't in any way, shape, or form change your narrative, right? Like PlayStation, let's be real here, right? Sony could go, you know what? We have chip issues until 2030 PS4. You will have no problem. There will be no issues. If Nintendo can keep giving you the same busted piece of hardware for years and the games are great, there is no way that Nintendo, that Sony or Microsoft, for that matter, couldn't do the same. They choose to be, let's push tech forward, and that's shaped this narrative to make it seem like, oh, it looks like there's 3, 4, 5 years of dust on that thing. Oh yeah, that's dead now. Move on. No, that's not the way it is, right? So let them do what they do. If they choose to go next gen, great. If they choose to say current gen, I will shed a tear because I don't want Gotham Knights. I want real next gen, not that, hey, we decided it's next gen now because we've decided to stop. No, they still adhere to the old Jaguar chips.
What you don't want is someone slapping a sticker on something, calling it,
which is what they kind of do.
Gen when which they're kind of doing. Listen, folks, real quick, I got to shout out good friend of the program who dropped a super chat in. I don't want to forget who is Drawn TJ, generous friend of the program, quite generous friend of the program. He drops $2 super chat says, good morning, guys. Well, good morning, Drawn TJ. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to move on to a topic that I'm a little salty with, ladies and gentlemen. This is a bookend story, and we're going to come to the middle and to an opinion that a lot of people might find to be offensive. That they don't agree, and if you don't agree with me, I hear you. But earlier this week, Hazador Gaming, he's a good friend of this community. He's always posting pretty incredible stories. He posted this on May 22nd. According to a new book, Microsoft passed on an opportunity to develop Marvel games in 2014. And here's a quote directly from that book. You can find it on Amazon.com. It's called The Ultimate History of Video Games. I have it ordered. I was going to Kindle it, but I'd rather have the physical books because I like physical media still. I'm old, so that's why. And here's a quote from the book. It says, I pinged both sides, both Xbox and PlayStation. Microsoft's strategy was to focus on their own IPs, so they passed. Now, I got some opinions on this, folks, so strap in. In 2014, Microsoft was not in a good place. We know that for an absolute fact. Terry, the human roadblock Meyerson, literally blocked everything that Phil wanted to do, right? That's a fact. Donnie D, good old Donnie D, Donnie Matrix, TV. Well, he was at the end of his reign, if you will. Now, some people will call it a reign of terror. I don't think so. I don't think he was terrible. I think he went out of his way to sink Xbox like Terry Meyerson wanted to. He just hit his level, if you will. And obviously, we saw that Microsoft's, his vision for Microsoft's Xbox was different than what PlayStation was doing. And this is how you share games, literally, won the generation for Sony. Now, again, we're not. So you look back and you say, what if Microsoft would have teamed up with Marvel? Who could have made the game for them? Well, they had, 4 or 5 first-party studios. I don't know if anyone could have made the game for them, to be quite honest with you. Now, could they have had the forethought, like Sony, to have Insomniac, who wasn't owned by Sony at that time, make a Spider-Man game for them? Well, I mean, you can suggest that, but I find that to be highly unlikely. But now I want to move on to, and again, the panel members, you're going to attack this from, I'm going to give you the floor where you're going to attack this from both sides of the coin. You're going to talk about 2014. We're going to talk about a recent report. Now, just a couple of days ago, Matty Plays, one of the hosts of Defining Duke with obviously Cognito. I like Matty Plays. I like Matty a lot. I think that guy is sharp as a tack. Really, really good dude. Passionate about the industry. That's why his channel's exploding. There's no doubt about it. I love Matty Plays. Well, it was posted. He did a video, and this wasn't on Defining Duke. This was on a video. Matty does videos like Colt and Dealer and Rand and everybody else. And in this video, he confirmed that he was told by numerous sources that Microsoft had turned down an exclusive deal for the remake of Knights of the Old Republic. And I know a lot of us, including myself, when this was first announced that it was Sony that was doing it, I was like, God damn it, Sony's money hatting everything. And it turns out that they're really not to blame here. Microsoft is the one to blame because they turned down the deal. Apparently, EA went to them first. Now, folks, listen, I'm not a fly in the wall. I don't run a $1 trillion business. So I'm going to talk about this from a fan's point of view, and I'm going to get a little salty here. The Spider-Man deal, I completely understand why Phil did that then. Phil's ideology about licensed IPs comes from numerous troubles with them trying to bring games like Mech Assault back, being, hung up with, with IP that they didn't have control over. So to some extent, I do understand back in 2014. What I have a problem with right now, today, is hearing that they had an opportunity to bring back one of the most beloved Xbox exclusives back in the OG Xbox days in Knights of the Old Republic. Now, someone had added me on Twitter and said that it's because Microsoft didn't have confidence in Aspire. And I've read at least half a dozen articles, maybe more. Maddie plays, and I watched Maddie's video like I normally do. That was never depicted at all. The fact that Microsoft would have turned it down because they don't have faith in Aspire, A, is ridiculous. And B, well, if EA and LucasArts have faith in Aspire, then what could Microsoft bring to the conversation? They don't own the IP. If they're allowing for this company to remake a classic game, and they're getting the nod from both LucasArts and EA and Disney specifically, then you shouldn't have any concern that Microsoft is worried about whether or not this is going to be a dud or not. Now, it's a timed exclusive. It's probably a year, maybe. Sony loves these 2-year deals. It could be a 2-year deal. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I know Microsoft listens to the show, and I'm very honored that they do. This is a mistake. This to me is a blunder. It is not forward thinking. I'm sorry to say, I'm going to get my feels here. I think that when you look at your scheduling for the next couple of years, even though we know that first party is coming, well, it's not here now, right? And you have a problem. You have a content problem. How do you turn down Knights of the Old Republic? I honestly, I'm flabbergasted by this. Now, is it too much money? Well, listen, folks, see, I'm not going to be a D-bag, but you're Microsoft. You're the richest country in the world, and you're dropping $70 billion on ABK. So don't come to me with there was too much of an asking price.
And that $70 billion, real quick, Boom. That $70 billion was mentioned by all the money sites and all the the popular sites that people follow. Yeah, that was a Starbucks pickup by Microsoft.
By Microsoft, a Starbucks pickup.
The equivalent of a Starbucks pickup. So that's
couch cushion money.
Idea. Couch cushion money, indeed.
So again, you're hearing what Kay Asante says. It's pretty ridiculous. So now I got to get my feels a little bit. I'm sorry to say, I find this to be a bit of a head scratcher, only because of the, again, if Knights of the Old Republic is coming out and we've never heard of this game, like, what is this Knights of the Old Republic stuff? Who are these old Jedi that no one cares about? Then I hear you. Just Sony does what Sony does. Microsoft dropped the ball, and Sony does what they have done for the last generation. They step in. And they step over Microsoft's fumble, and they pick up the ball and they run into the end zone. Hey, touchdown! Yeah, great for everybody. But this is bonkers to me, folks. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I talk up Microsoft, and as much as I get on Sony, when the roles are reversed, understand that you tune into this program. We have almost 400 people here on a Thursday morning. You tune in here for the truth, and I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give it to Microsoft the same way I'd give it to Sony, Nintendo, or anyone else. And I think that this is a disastrous move. I think that it is not forward thinking. I don't know the money situation, but when you're Microsoft, money isn't even it shouldn't even be in the conversation. You got to do things for your fandom, and sometimes you got to overpay because your fandom is worth it. We Xbox fans are worth this. We are worth whatever they were charging. And again, I don't ever think that it's boom, they got Indiana Jones. Maybe it's an either or. And again, maybe some ideologies have changed. We have heard from several people, including Jeff Grubb. We've heard it from Special Nick. Now we've heard it from Sculzy TV that Microsoft is working with Disney, and they do have several exclusives, which one of them might be The Mandalorian. So again, it's one of those deals. I'm a little shocked that Knights of the Old Republic, one of the most iconic exclusives for the OG Xbox, could have come back as listen. If you don't want to make it a timed exclusive, because Phil doesn't like keeping games for people, I understand that. I respect Phil for that. It would have been a day-and-date Game Pass.
Real talk,
Joe, yeah, please jump in.
Real talk. I'm just there for first and foremost. I have this thought. It can't escape my brain because it's too fucking cool. Imagine the Mando game is like a role playing, like akin to like a Mass Effect. You walk into like your target, like like the cantina of your target, and like you have 3 options, and it's like you could like tell them like you're coming with me, or like hey, we could like talk this out, or you could just be like option C, I could bring you in warm, I could bring you in cold. I'm like, oh god, yes, option C, smash.
Listen,
so cool.
Again, the rumor is
Wars.
that it's going to be it's going to have a single player, it's going to have a story, it's going to be multiplayer from what we understand. The rumor is that you're going to be able to make your own Mandalorian, which I think it should be the case. I like Mando, but I'd like to make my own.
He and honestly, you could live service the hell out of that game. Anyway, nonetheless, I am not upset by any of this.
Okay, so Joe, please take the microphone. Please tell me why you're not upset about this.
So first things first. I'm gonna say, and with that, like Xbox fans are like, okay, he's on our side. Wait a sec. Xbox in 2014 wasn't doing good.
They were in a bad place, brother. 100%.
I wouldn't give them any goddamn IP. Truthfully, now they have. Being honest, I wouldn't give them a Spider-Man.
Don't give them anything. Look how they're doing. No,
no. I wouldn't give them Spider-Man. I no. But with the Microsoft that we're working with now, and all of the studios that they have, and it looks like the creative freedom. And also, when I'm talking crap about Microsoft, it's a previous leadership, the ones that cared about the cash more than
about Sarah Bond or Adam Greenberg or Matt Booty or anybody or specifically Phil Spencer. Right.
Yeah, never. I would never tarnish that man's name. But but that said, where they are now totally makes sense. You have some of now the best studios in the industry with just Bethesda alone. Now you're getting Activision Blizzard. There's a lot of studios that would love an opportunity. Let's just say, let's give it a Raven to make like a Punisher game or something like that. Awesome.
Oh.
So
yes, please.
All right, that's awesome. But like to me, I'm Microsoft. I just paid $70 billion for Activision Blizzard. I want them to make Activision Blizzard IP. I don't want the Warcraft team to make a Star Wars MMO. I want the Warcraft team to work on Warcraft because I paid for that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So like, just like how I paid for Call of Duty, I don't want a Punisher game. I paid for Call of Duty. So it's about getting what you're getting for your money. You're not just getting studios. The main importance for all these acquisitions for Microsoft is to buy IP, is to buy legacy, to buy a library.
Yeah.
Right? Because what's the thing we always hear? Oh, when it comes to legacy, when it comes to IP, it's Nintendo and PlayStation. Microsoft doesn't come close. Or for the little amount of legacy they have, Microsoft respects a hell of a lot more than PlayStation, or, oh God, Nintendo's the worst. So in that regard, if I paid $70 billion for a thing, I'm using that thing. Right. That being said, when it comes to like the Indiana Jones stuff from Bethesda, which awesome. That deal was prior to Microsoft hashing out, the purchase of Bethesda. I bet they probably knew that something was going around during Bethesda while they were working on that deal, or they were privy to right before they signed, and Disney was okay with it. But the other thing we have to also come to the sad understanding of as the Xbox community is, when it comes to the Knights of the Old Republic, why didn't you sign that timed exclusive deal? Honestly, if I'm Xbox, I don't see the use of them anymore because PlayStation has just such a hold on the console market right now that it's, you see games that are being like, 2-1 still. Now it's getting closer, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that deal necessarily nets you out what the big blockbuster Disney wants out of that IP or Aspire. And we also have to give into account, and I know this is unpopular and Game Pass might ratio me, but Disney might not want that game on Game Pass. Right? Because they want that sure money. It's Star Wars.
Well, it's Knights of the Old Republic. That's going to sell, dude.
That's going to sell megatons day one. That's a game you put out a year or maybe 6 months after the release, kind of like similar to Guardians if it doesn't pan out. So if I'm Disney, it's kind of like I don't want Game Pass. I'm Star Wars, so cool it. And that may be the deciding factor for them. It may just come down to business. It may be like Microsoft really wants it, but Disney doesn't. There may be a stipulation in the contract that something falls through. That's always something to consider.
Yeah, no, obviously the only reason why we're having this conversation is only because Matty plays. And like I said, I trust Matty. He never talks outside of his mouth. And he doesn't say anything that isn't relevant to him believing that it's true.
Yeah.
So the way it was positioned is that Microsoft turned this down. Now, Joe was right.
Sure.
There could be some behind-the-scenes baseball that we're not privy to. Maybe Xbox One Game Pass, and
it could be
said nay.
Yeah, and it could be, and I'm sorry, and I'll let everybody else speak for a sec. And it could just be strictly it doesn't fit our and I know it may sound crazy, y'all, but it could be Microsoft just going, no, it doesn't fit our portfolio. We have all the RPGs. We don't need another one. It could just come strictly down to that. It could strictly be like, listen, dude, we got Elder Scrolls, we got Fallout. We don't need any more of this. We're good. We're good. PlayStation's the one that definitely needs RPGs, and that's going to fit their portfolio a lot better.
Yeah,
but I'm sorry. I'll let everybody else talk.
No, Joe, I love the take. I love the hot take, Joe. Thank you so much for that. JC Carla Moreau drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Getting Switch Hogwarts, even though it's not the best." Hey, listen, brother, I have a lot of games. I'm a part of the problem. I buy a lot of games on the Switch that I have on the Xbox because sometimes when I'm just sitting there, watching a movie with the missus, one of our Korean dramas that we're mad addicted to. I'll pop it on and I'll play, put sounds off, and I'm just enjoying myself and watching it and still hanging out with the missus.
Convenience trumps fidelity every time.
It's absolutely
not a problem,
and you know that more than most for sure.
Yeah.
We also have Gamers Play HUD Zero, who's been a member for 6 months, actually a member for 8 months. Thank you for that. He said, I believe that Xbox is still dealing with identity crisis. That being said, KOTOR should have been a freaking shoo-in. Why ignore games that you made, that made you? Now, I mean, again, I'm on that bandwagon. And you know something that's crazy? This chat, first of all, we're almost at 400 people, and there are a lot of big opinions, and we respect them all. I love that you guys are, having a nice, strong conversation, but everyone's being civil. Let me bring in Web Dave and then Fuzzy, and then, of course, I'll bring Kay Asante in on a conversation. Web Dave, we were having a conversation, and I got my feels in the green room. I'm still in my feels over it because of who and what KOTOR means for me. I mean, I'm being a selfish gamer here.
No,
but to be honest with you, I said it before and I'll say it again. I think it's a big miss. What are your opinions on what Matty Plays had to say, and of course what Joe had to say regarding Microsoft saying no to the Times exclusive?
To step back quickly to the 2014.
Yeah,
I do think that was probably a matter of the people in charge at the time, as far as what they were able to get done and what they felt like they could do to that franchise. Was it a miss? I definitely think it was, but was it something that they could really do anything about at the time? I really don't know. That's one of those that have to wait for the book to come out for that. But the KOTOR, I love the game. It's fantastic. This is a timed exclusive, so that means that it is going to be coming to the Xbox. So we know that that system is going to get it, whether it's a year from now or however long the exclusivity is. So I'm at least confident to know that we are getting it on that console. I don't know if I'll wait. I may get it for the PlayStation.
I'm going to
5.
double dip. I'm not waiting on that game. I will buy that on the PlayStation 4, 5, whatever, and I will then rebuy it again, and they're just going to get my money because that's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and I'm not waiting.
Yeah, and then like you said, it's great, and at the time, it was a huge benefit to the ecosystem for Xbox. It definitely pushed the console forward. But if it comes down to, and I'll say this, that we don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks for sure. I mean, we have a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation as far as what's going to be announced. We've heard some things like the Mandalorian type information, and if that is the case, where it's like Microsoft said, oh, okay, we'll let them have the time exclusive on this, and we'll focus a lot of money on the newest, hottest Star Wars franchise right now, which is the Mandalorian, which is really bringing the renaissance back to the franchise. I mean, because there's some people that didn't, some of the movies didn't quite hit well, the recent movies, and the Mandalorian has gotten all the feels. It is definitely the catalyst for bringing, not that it was gone by any means, but as far as even the diehard fans that were kind of, I'll step back from Star Wars, Mandalorian has reinvigorated their passion for the franchise.
Well, that has a lot to do with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Like, they literally, in my opinion, Joe will be smiling even though he's off camera. They saved Star Wars because I'm sorry, the last couple of films, oh my God, not so good. Just say that.
But I think the Mandalorian has turned that around, and the things that they've done with that show, and even like bringing in the Luke Skywalker character and tying it into this, that is like, oh my God, and they have Mark Hamill in there. That's amazing, because and Mark absolutely enjoyed doing it, so much so that he even also made appearances on the Boba Fett series. So, and I don't think that his actual role is done. I think they're probably going to continue to weave him in a little bit in the continuation of the Mandalorian. I think that the Mandalorian is the hottest franchise right now, and I'm not saying that Microsoft is in any way dissing the KOTOR or dissing their past, but I think that maybe if they had the choice to, like, let's focus on this, maybe, and like I said, we don't know for sure, and maybe it's going to be something that goes everywhere, and maybe it's not necessarily exclusive, but hopefully we'll find out in 2 weeks. But if it is an exclusive for a while with Microsoft, and this is the next gen consoles or current gen, sorry about that, case I think that if that's that's the, I guess, the direction they want to go in to get people excited for, KOTOR is great, and we'll have KOTOR in a year. Here's the newest thing, and we've got it right in your face. I just think that there's definitely some possibilities there. I wish, we already, could be could have an insight as to what is going to happen at the, fast forward 2 weeks to see what's going to happen at the showcase. But man, and that's going to be a great show here, Boom, that you're going to have, which I know everybody definitely needs to tune in to that. But
I think everyone's going to be doing shows, but I'm excited because not only do I have an amazing panel, but we do have the Welsh Gamer making his return to podcasting. I don't know if you remember the Welsh Gamer. He started the Xbox Factor with me many moons ago, and he had to step away for family stuff, and he's coming out of retirement for that show specifically. But yeah, more information of that will be coming up. But let's bring in Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, you had some thoughts about this, brother. I mean, listen, obviously. KOTOR, for an older gamer like yourself, like me, we appreciate this, and I'll say it again. I feel it's an L, but tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I think it's a missed opportunity. Anytime there's I guess you could say a recognized IP, and anything Star Wars related, it's something that they should definitely consider, at least in the current Xbox form. You have now, whether it's Aspire is the only ones that can do it, or you can have some of your own teams work on it. I would lean more towards Obsidian, but I know they have a full plate considering they're releasing like 7 games over the next 7 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But just a quick step back to the 2014 aspect of Xbox. I think if they did have the wherewithal to, green light Spider-Man, I don't think it would have gotten the same quite of reception unless they had the wherewithal to go to Insomniac, which at that point, it's kind of hard to tell because at least from my understanding, Insomniac came to them after what do you call them? Sunset Overdrive was shot down by Sony, so it was one of those things that at least picked that up. But I don't think they would have been like, hey, I mean, you guys are working on this game and it didn't do as hot, but hey, could you do Spider-Man for us? I don't think that would have been a thought that crossed their mind. So looking back at the old Xbox, either the game wouldn't have been what we know of today, or I don't think it would have really moved the needle for them in that regard. There was just so many things that they were kind of climbing out of the hole that Matrick kind of dug for them that I don't think Spider-Man would have saved the brand at that point, and things would have, who knows if they would be anywhere near close to what they are today. But fast forward to today, as far as KOTOR, I would hope with turning down that opportunity that they have what they consider, kind of like what Dave was saying, a better opportunity in something like Mandalorian or something along those lines, that they have agreed to green light type of deal. Like I would hope that there's like a deck of cards that Disney's like, hey, here's all these IPs, pick one. And it wasn't like, hey, can you do KOTOR? And they were like, no. It's more like, oh, well, we picked this one instead of KOTOR, even though it has the history of with it being an original Xbox title. But we'll see how it pans out when the game comes out, like in a year or two. Hopefully it's not a 2-year exclusive deal. Hopefully it's only a 1 year, but we'll see how it is. Whether you have just an Xbox or if you have both, I'll probably wind up checking it out on my PS5, but fingers crossed. And, we're only about 2 weeks away from, the showcase, but fingers crossed that there is a different, more recent or more in the front of people's minds IP from Star Wars IP that they have in the works. And rumors have been buzzing about a Mandalorian game for a little over 2 years now. So hopefully that's the case, and that would explain why it's like, well, we can't have all these Star Wars IPs. We focus on one at a time. Get it right, and make sure it's an awesome game for years to come type of deal. But I missed opportunity. Is it end all be all? No,
especially not an end all be all. But again, it's just it's one of those legacy IPs.
Yeah,
that have such, like, when any conversation that you have with gamers that remember playing this. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about the mobile versions. I'm talking about you got your Xbox home, BioWare in their prime, right? In their absolute prime. You're like, yo, this HK-47 is bonkers. He could be a comedian. He's so funny, right? Hey, Fleshbag, get out of my way. You're laughing. You're falling out of the seat.
Yeah.
That's legacy.
Yeah.
Right? And when legacy has a chance to come back, I'm sorry. I mean, like I said, I understand Microsoft can't have it all.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things that you kind of really push the conversation forward to get it because of the legacy that title has with your box.
Yeah.
Right? Last year, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Microsoft being in the business, right? It was a really, really big deal. Mm-hmm. And this is what was a part of that legacy. Well, still to this day, it's Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah. And
it would have been a pretty epic score to be able for Microsoft to be able to say, hey, listen, we know we're kind of hurting with our own first party stuff, but we have Knights coming. We have this coming. We have that coming. Asante, let's bring you in on the conversation. You're a huge Star Wars fan, same as I. You're also a fan of BioWare. You're also a fan of Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, your personal opinion, is this a miss for Xbox?
So, okay. All right. So I think that we're speaking about this with consumer eyes. And if you look at it from the business perspective, there are differences there that folks kind of overlook. Okay. Like, and I've heard you guys talking about, and I hear you talking about, like you just said, hey, look about the legacy of your platform. KOTOR is about that legacy, right? Technically, if you look at Netflix, you can say Seinfeld or what's the other one? Friends is a part of their legacy. Do they own that IP? Hell no. right? They're beholden to whoever owns that IP, and they have to play nice in order for that IP to thrive on their platform, right? Even though at the beginning of Netflix, that was synonymous with Netflix. Oh, they got the Friends. Oh, let's go there because that's where it is. It's not theirs. To you, it's theirs because it's there all the time, but it's not theirs. KOTOR does not belong to them. Never did. By the virtue of PlayStation didn't get their act together for PS3 on time, they got that IP on their platform before anyone else. If PlayStation was there with their PS3 like from day one, KOTOR would have been on both, right? It just so happened that at that time, Xbox was the only game in town, and because of that, they got Mass Effect. They got a bunch of really cool, interesting things, right? 2014, right? The conversation with 2014. Do I think both of these decisions are a missed opportunity? I'm with you 100%. But I believe that hindsight is 2020, so you can say that now, but there's just no way they would have been okay with that then or now. That's like basically telling Netflix right after after everybody took their ball and went home, and now they're building Umbrella Academy. DC shows up and says, "Here's a Justice League show," and they drop Umbrella Academy to make DC's show. No, that's DC's property. No matter how great it is, it'll eventually belong to them, not us. So they got to keep on with Umbrella Academy because that's theirs forever, right? Same thing Microsoft is doing right now, right? Even though I am a huge fan of KOTOR and I would have loved it to be there, it's not their IP and they know it. To you, consumer, it's synonymous with their IP, but in real brass tacks, it doesn't belong to them. And they'll have to pay someone else to keep having that on their platform. So as hard as it is to believe now, they just got to let it go because they're working on their Mando game. Or they're just like Joe was saying, they're working on their game. Their priority is to make sure that the next time that big hit happens, they got nobody in their way saying, well, now we want more money if you want the second version.
And here's the thing, Asante. It runs into the MLB The Show problem. They don't own MLB The Show. I've been saying it for years. Spider-Man will eventually be on Xbox. It is just a matter of time. There's only Sony PlayStations, only so many PCs that would help Disney, quench the hunger.
Yep.
That's eventually going to happen, and Sony's going to buckle because they don't have because they need that IP, but they don't control it. So they're going to begrudgingly have to do that. You're 100% right.
And Microsoft doesn't want to be in that world. Although I will say I disagree with you, Joe, on why you think that Disney won't want a game in Game Pass or whatever. There are a lot of Disney games in Game Pass. Some of them are even day one. Sure. I honestly think
which ones
that there's a new what do you call it? They're making their version of Animal Crossing, but in Disney. Yeah. Day one Game Pass, the original one for Xbox One. My daughter plays it all the time. Like where you're Mickey Mouse and you're going here. Like
but like that thing, like so real talk, just a little
Star Wars. They threw in there as well.
Which Star Wars?
Your favorite Star Wars? It's in there.
Fallen Order.
But not day one, right?
Not day one. You're right.
Yeah, that's what.
I guess what I'm saying is the reason why you won't see that there. I don't think it's because Disney goes, well, our brand is too cachet, it can't join a subscription service.
No, it's not that.
I think their reason, if their reason is to not put it in Game Pass, it's because the dollars and cents really needs to add up. And at this point, Microsoft is like, we don't need your dollar. We don't need to keep, bringing your stuff to the yard when we have our own that we can build that can then continue to be for us forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The Disney little Stardew Valley game. Like that's not like they'll put that on Game Pass and it'll be like a nice little partnership because that's a very low risk project for them. So like for a high risk project, let's just say like Fallen Order, you're not seeing that day one because they know that's gonna make a shit ton of money.
And that's all deliberation between the two of us, but I honestly think that was probably more an EA decision than it was a Disney decision, because just like you're describing here with like MLB The Show, right?
Yeah.
If MLB says it's in Game Pass, you PlayStation have no right to stop them.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. If Disney says it's in Game Pass, you EA have no right to stop them. There's mushy middles there, and I think that's what's those are still being deliberated upon. Right. Unfortunately, the long and short of it is the decisions that they made faulty in the past. They had reasons for doing that. Right. And KOTOR to a less extent, I do think that they probably could have and should have fought harder for that. But like we're saying, if Mandalorian is really in the mix and hard in the mix right now, exactly what everyone has said, eventually you'll get KOTOR on the Xbox. You won't get Mandalorian on any other platform except for platforms that where Game Pass and or Xbox exists. So they'll get both eventually, right? So they're prioritizing where their money can hit the most, right? The problem, and we keep going back and forth with 2014 versus now. What do you call it? Sunset Overdrive bombed like a huge stink bomb all over the place. Amazing game that nobody gave credit to. Had they done so, you wouldn't see Insomniac in PlayStation's camp today. Yeah. They literally bombed. And they paid for the engine. Engine was done. Game was great. Nobody bought it. And then they took that engine, went to play Sony. And when Sony went, well, the R&D for the engine's already done. We might as well just give you Spider-Man. And there you go, right? Had Spider-Man been on Xbox, it probably wouldn't have been as good because the situation needed to present itself in a way where it worked out the way it did. Because chances are Insomniac wouldn't have been making their Spider-Man, right? Yeah. It would have been one of their own studios, which would not have hit.
Here's an interesting, again, not to take us off track, but a good friend of the Bone Slave, good friend of the program, is always in the chat. He says Jeff Grubb has recently hinted that Microsoft and WB have an entanglement going on, meaning that, which means that again we had all
every time somebody says that, I see somebody getting their faces slapped. I'm sorry, continue.
That's funny.
Anyway,
but yeah, that's so. But yeah, I mean,
but you understand what I'm saying, right?
Fantastic point. Everyone's had great points.
As much as we want it from a consumer's perspective, as much as we want that, and I want it too really bad. I wanted that.
From a selfish gamer's perspective, that's why I want it.
That's right. But from a business perspective and from where they are today, believe it or not, the reason why we say it's a missed opportunity is because you've heard the news. Had you not heard this news, there's a world where the Mandalorian shows up before KOTOR does. And then what would you have said? Right? It just so happens that you've heard this now. So now it's like, oh, missed opportunity. Imagine if June shows up and they whiz bang you with Mandalorian.
Of course, absolutely.
Right?
Then
all of a sudden you'll be like, keep your KOTOR remake. We know what that game is. Look at this new hotness. That's where they're banking. Now, will they succeed? Like, I think, and I'll leave on this note. I think right now, Microsoft has been making some very bold, almost overly confident moves, announcing the delays the way they did.
You've been on that train since the announcement.
They're being a bit bold with it.
You feel it was too bullish the way they did it.
Yes. They should be more hat in hand, They should be more hat in hand and say, hey, we're still climbing, but stay with us. Instead, they're acting like Sony when Sony drops something. Y'all are all right. We got you. Right. So we have to see what that means. If they are right, I'll be like, hey, you had it. If they're wrong, I'll be the first to be like, y'all ain't Sony yet. Calm down. Right? They're acting like Sony, which I think is kind of interesting. We'll see what they think they've got come June.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely fantastic point as always. Everyone has killed it. Joe, while you're still here, we do have another Sony topic, hot button topic. And I think this is, we talked about this before, Joe. This actually makes a lot of sense. It is being reported by numerous sources, specifically Benji Sales. We love Benji Sales. He's a very busy man. I'm trying to get him on the show. He's just so busy. He posted yesterday official PlayStation PC sales numbers. Joe, they're quite impressive.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn, 2.39 million. They made $60 million in revenue. Days Gone, just a hint under 1 million, 852,000 copies sold. They made $22.7 million in revenue. God of War, again, just a hint under 1 million, 971,000 copies sold on PC for a grand total of $26.2 million in revenue. And according to Andy Robinson of Twitter, and I think everyone knows who that is, he is obviously Andy at Playtonic. I believe he is the editor out at VGC. He's reporting that they did a story that PlayStation says half of its annual releases will be on PC and mobile by 2025. And that comes on the heels. It was being reported today that Returnal is going to be the first game officially ported from the PlayStation 5 over to PC. Joe, this is again, from a PlayStation fan's point of view, this is going to vex a lot of people because they kind of want to live in this walled gate. But you and I have been talking about this for what seems like years. Yeah. This is you're leaving money on the table. It's what we opened up the show with Sony not releasing games on the PlayStation 4 as they're having trouble making PlayStation 5s. It's reckless. It's not good business. And we know Jim Ryan, you might say that he has some good dancing shoes. He might, have a big yacht, but he's a good businessman.
And he owns 2 cats.
And multiple cats.
You can't forget that. Human being Jim Ryan.
That's right.
Owns 2 cats. He always starts off by saying, "I'm a human being. I
own 2 cats." It's very hilarious. But
hello, fellow Earthlings.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for topic number 3. This is not a surprising move at all. I know a lot of people are like kind of sitting back in their chairs, like, "Wow, I can't believe they're doing this." This is where you make money. This is the way you do business. Mm-hmm. And obviously, based on the sales numbers that Benji Sales put out there for us yesterday, and I read verbatim, there's money to be had on a PC. A PC. There are people that actually own PCs that don't have PlayStations. And again, it's leaving money on the table. Joe, what are your thoughts on not only the numbers that have these millions of dollars that have been brought back to PlayStation, but now Returnal being the next one?
First off, go fucking play Returnal, guys. Come on. I'm sorry I cussed. I'm sorry. That's all right. It's the first day of the vacation. I can't control myself. But I mean it. Play it. It's so good. Just so good. Anyway, I'm gonna go play it later. That said, PC, this is the future. I feel like I was like one of the only quote unquote Sony people that was actually excited about the news of PlayStation heading to PC because it's happening. It's the future. That's where it's all headed. It's all going to be PC. I've been saying this from the get. It's at the end of the day, it's all going to be about an app. PlayStation now knows this, realizes this, and they are working towards it. That is why one story that I was very surprised no one picked up on, PlayStation reportedly making their own PC app. So you'll be able to buy your games on Steam, play them on the PlayStation app, earn trophies. And one sec. Sorry, something in my throat. It's the excitement from Returnal. So that is their way of connecting the ecosystems together, right? So they tested this out with 3 games, ports of Horizon, of Days Gone, and of God of War, and it was very profitable for them. I mean, like, again, Horizon, that number sold, that is one would assume a dated game that, with not an announced sequel coming to your platform would make you think that, who would really want to pick this up? Days Gone is not getting a sequel. That selling 800,000 copies, that's nothing to scoff at. God of War, again, what is it now? Like a 4-year-old game at this point, comes out on PC, almost 1 million sold in just a few months. That's nuts. So PlayStation has seen it. They did a little low risk analysis of putting their games on here. They're seeing, oh, this works. Oh, we can make money off of it. Oh, okay. So let's start printing some money. And no doubt, has the COVID era affected them to do this. I feel like if PlayStations were more readily available, this future would have happened, but a lot later.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. And this is specifically for you because you are in that PlayStation ecosystem. Like what you're saying here makes perfect sense. My question is, why did it take them so long to realize this? That's just the most moronic thing I've ever heard. They should have known this from day one. There are way more PC players than there are console players.
Yeah.
Why
Stubborn.
was this something they needed to learn later? It's so weird to me.
It is stubborn. So like the reason why it's easy for Microsoft to do it is because they're a PC company at the end of the day, right? So they're like, hey, we control the most popular OS in the world. We can throw these games on here and make way more money. So it's easy for Microsoft to connect the dots because their ecosystems are kind of like, not to say one-to-one, but they're interconnected in a way. Their business history is connected. So if you're Sony and if you're Nintendo, you only know that your platform is, or your games are the reason why people choose your piece of plastic. So they think that by putting that copy of, God of War on PC, it may possibly devalue people getting the hardware. But I think they're seeing as the PC market grows and there's stagnation in the console market, right? That they're like, okay, so it really just seems like every generation we're gonna sell 100 million consoles. That's as far as it goes. And if you're a corporation, you need to see increased profits every year. So you're going to go, okay, we now have to start thinking outside the box, and literally and metaphorically, and go, okay, where else can we do this instead, besides putting it on a competitor's platform, right? So you're taking a look at PC, you're taking a look at mobile, and with VR being a very not to say popular, but niche market that is proving that it's growing, you're like, okay, so I want to be the first tier. I want to be on PC because this industry is just growing. And I want to be on phones because phones are, I mean, that's where most of the money in games is in the mobile market. So they're like, we want to be in every market. So we're in the console market with PlayStation, we're in the PC market with PC, and we're in the mobile market. And that's kind of PlayStation's strategy. And then whatever the hell PlayStation's version of the metaverse is, I think I think honestly that was there just to kind of be there. Like, I don't think they have real tangible plans with that, because I do think the metaverse is dead. But like
I think that was DOA, brother. I just think it's preposterous.
Who wants to buy a sock puppet picture? You're like, who wants that? I don't know. Apparently, rich billionaires who are bored. But nonetheless, that's why I feel like the hesitation was, we make money on this hardware. Does this devalue the hardware? Now, that being said, Returnal coming to PC, God bless, because that game is fantastic. That is just arcade fun to the core. And I can't wait. I really can't wait. More people need to play that.
I really wanted to play it until the whole save thing, lose your whole build, and
listen, it's rough around the edges. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's just the
dude, you've been glowing about this game. You platinum this game.
It's a great game. It's a great game. It's like just a bad roguelike, in my opinion.
It's
God, no, I love it.
It's a great game, bad roguelike. That's what it is.
You know what it is for me? That's my first roguelike. So it's like. You always remember your first, but like Hades is obviously like GOAT. Yeah, but like for me, it's like second.
Compare it to Hades, for instance. If you compare it to Hades, it's a bag of roguelike. But as an action adventure game, heck yeah, Returnal is awesome. People need to play more of it.
Yeah.
Salute.
Yeah. Now listen, I want to bring in Kay Asante before Dave and Fuzzy, only because I don't know how much time we have with him.
I'm almost ready to
so
go.
Let's bring you in on the conversation. Is this a surprise that listen, Microsoft has been doing this to scrutiny and success for years. Mm-hmm. You asked the question, why did this take so long with Sony? And Joe answered it: stubbornness. They are a very Japanese company, and they do things in a very Japanese traditional way. We've heard that, and again, this is just the opinions, folks, that Jim Ryan doesn't necessarily hold the full control. Like he's not
at the top of the pyramid,
right? So a lot of people believe that he would want day-and-day, in their service, and Japan says no dice.
Yep. I think he's more like Phil Spencer than people think. It's just Phil Spencer's just got Phil Spencer and that's it. Whereas he then must speak to the Japanese side and they may not agree.
Right.
And once they don't agree, he can't come out and go, well, I would want day and date, but my boss says I can't. So
yeah, he would never say that. Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if you look at Phil's move, if you look at Jim Ryan's moves, he is Phil Spencer. He wants it everywhere. And not because the only difference is Phil goes, because we want gamers to game everywhere. Whereas Ryan would go, because there are pockets with money in it everywhere. It's still true, both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So am I surprised that they're doing this? Heck no. If I have any surprise, it's that it took so long to get this done. Right. And to the idea of, I completely agree with what Mr. Badbit was saying about tried and true method. We sell you the plastic. Because of that, you then buy our games moving forward, right? Tried and true method. But as we've seen, even even Bethesda and a few others, they all have their own launchers, right? And when you have your own launcher, which let's be real, as part of the PC community that I am, we are all troglodytes that refuse to install any new launchers. But if I had the opportunity, if you told me, Sony, hey, here's our new launcher. We know you own God of War because we've seen you play it on our PlayStation platform. Install this launcher and you get your license to carry over, so you don't have to buy it again on Steam, which I did, by the way. I double dipped on both God of War and in Horizon. If that was an option for me, if you put that into the premium tier, for instance, of their new subscription service, you'd have me day one, right? They know this. It's just, it seems that they cultivate that diehard fan, right? Which is great. But the flip side of that cultivating of the diehard fan is then you have to adhere to what their likes are. And God forbid you put God of War or GT7. Oh, the man pulled out the magic, baby. That's right. We're going to have a conversation, Mr. Badbit. One of these days, we're going to do that because God of War shines brightly on a Steam Deck. I'm just saying. The reason why they're not doing this is because it seems to me that they have taskmasters that they have to be beholden to, and they're very much in that old school mindset, right?
Yep.
It's very strange. Very, very. It's as strange as Sega not putting all their games everywhere. It's just very strange. And then they put like Persona 4 Golden on Steam. It sells the world, and they go, wow, people actually wanted to play that. Like, really, dude? Like, clearly people have wanted to play your games forever, right? So I am really excited that PlayStation is slowly heading in that direction. I think they should be a bit more like, all out with it and say, look, here's the world we live in. The content is king. Platform is just literally a stepping stone to get you to our content, right?
The other thing is this. Here's a great point that no one has brought up yet. I'm surprised. I mean, we still have to get to Web Dave and Fuzzy. If you're a PC guy or gal, right? And you're like, I'm Master Race. I don't need a PlayStation.
Stop that Master Race talk, please.
No.
PC people deal with so much drama.
It is a reality. There are the uppities out there. Listen, slow-mo backslap is a perfect example. He's PCMR.
He's just a clown. Leave him. He's just a troll. Leave him alone.
We love him. Hopefully he's recovered from COVID, by the way. So send your love and prayers to him as well.
Very true. Yes.
But all jokes aside, there might be people that were PlayStation fans back in the days. They had a PlayStation 1, had a PlayStation. They have a legacy connection with PlayStation. And they got into PC and they're like, I God of War. That God of War looks so good. And then they find out that God of War is on. You're going to get sales. You're going to get, we just read the sales. That's a perfect example. People are going to buy these games because they might have moved on to PC, but still have a connection to PlayStation. So I'm happy for anyone who doesn't own a PS4 or a PS5 that can now be a part of the conversation.
I completely agree with you, 100%. And I'm happy for people like me who then more and more. he is just disturbing.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
And Badbit, I won't derail the conversation, but I'll ask you, how is your remote play experience on that? Because to me, it's hit and miss a little bit on the PS5 specifically.
Real talk, really good. I have not had it's not going to be it's not going to be the best, but I'm surprised. You've been
able to get out and game with no issues on that. Because I tried Forbidden West and I'm playing it and I'm just like, it's just not the same. The control scheme is a little bit. But anyway.
Because not
Let us
because
not
it's not
derail.
distance. I get it. But
yeah,
no.
it's not. Yeah, but yes,
I love it. That's fantastic.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, even though there are some within the community who are like, we'll take our ball and go home. Oh, everybody's pulling out the old. I hate you all. I can't grab mine right now. Anyway, everybody's in the world where, hey, content is what moves people now, not necessarily your plastic box, right? And because of that, I think we live in a world where you will see PlayStation come out and just say, look, enough of that old world where my plastic box is different than your plastic box. It's going to be all about the content and where where you can find it. And I want to live in that world. That's the world I'm excited.
Well, being able to play everything everywhere, I know that's the dream, right? A lot of people don't agree with that. A lot of people have old school mentality. They want it to be on their box only. I think that those days are slowly being edged out. I think there is going to be a position. And we're going to see Microsoft take that lead, because we're seeing it now, with the Xbox everywhere. We know that they're potentially releasing a streaming stick. We know that they have cloud gaming. We know that they have the boxes. So, I mean, how long before Sony gets there? Well, that's tough to say. That depends on how quickly they want to stay. They see Microsoft making money hand over fist. The whole PC conversation, Joe, has a lot to do with Microsoft making money on games and Sony being like, this PlayStation stuff is good, but that PC, that's an untapped market for us.
It's real talk. It just comes down to market analysis. Like they literally let Microsoft do it.
Yeah,
to see how it's done.
Yeah,
and because they could sit back and let Microsoft take the risk, and if they could go, oh shit, it's paying off for them. Okay, let's
go ahead and walk into that jungle, and if you get eaten by a tiger, well, too bad for you, Microsoft. But if you come back, well, thanks for forging that path.
Didn't we say that yesterday? The first strike rule means you get all the arrows.
You get all the arrows.
We'll see how many arrows you get. Then we'll talk about it.
You know what? Let's bring in. First of all, KSante, thanks for jumping in, brother. I know you got to bounce. Thank you so much, brother. Definitely appreciate.
Yes, I do have to bounce. I have a few minutes before my next call, but real quick, yes.
Go.
Good night, everybody. We're gonna have a conversation about this one of these days. Bad Bit, Web Dave, we're gonna do this.
Great having you on, KSante.
Indeed, everyone will never get one of these. So,
no.
Good night, everybody.
Fraud.
Later.
Bye.
Fuzzy, let's bring you in on the conversation, brother.
Yeah.
This is, you obviously play on multiple entities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a big surprise? Because I see a lot of people taken back by this. There are some people out there, and I don't want to call them console warriors. They're just fans, right? They're like, I want it on my box, and I feel like I'm being disrespected. That's something I keep reading, which I find to be ridiculous, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. Is this should diehard PlayStation gamers seen the writing witness the writing on the wall, so to speak?
They should have known a while ago, and a lot of people have been vocally kind of prepping them for it, and they're like, "Oh, it'll never happen." And as the they get closer to a day and date on PC, I think that's a great thing. I mean, me personally, I would have loved to have had GT7 on PC day and date. That's a whole nother story for most intents and purposes. But it considering that there is an untapped market, so there are quite a few PC players out there that are not going to bother with a console. Why turn away their dollars? Why, make them wait when they're sure? I guess they'll still buy the game, but not in the same numbers. At least that's my thought on it, in the sense that there are so many games on PC. If you can have the same experience or enjoy the game at the same time as the console players, have the conversation about the game in general, I think that's an opportunity that they should capitalize on as soon as possible. We kind of predicted before where any of those games as a service games, I mean, GT7 is kind of that anyway, but any of the upcoming ones would be like a perfect opportunity for them to do that. So you have that larger player base. Like some of the timed exclusives that they released or were on PC at the same time as well. So from a console only player standpoint, they shouldn't have taken offense or felt insulted in that regard. Yeah, sure, it's not first party, but still having those games on a PC is not going to detract from your game. And I know there used to be a lot of people in spaces where, oh, well, if you have multiple platforms that you have to program for, it takes away from it. And it's like, then why did they buy Nixus? I mean, they bought a PC porting company to make PC ports. But all things aside,
it's like, why did they buy all those support studios last year?
Exactly. So
coincidence?
No, but and a lot of people put the blinders on and just want to stick their fingers in the air and didn't want to listen to reason. But it's a good thing in the sense that now there are definite opportunities for more people to play the games, meaning that they'll have more, more of a fan base to know if a game like Days Gone would be a better or be in a better position, even though that went to PC anyway. But it's one of those things where if you have more games go to PC day and date, or have more of their catalog on PC, you're going to have more players play the game. In turn, PlayStation is going to have more money in their pocket. Is it going to detract from hardware sales? I have my doubts. Honestly, a console player that is only a console player is not going to all of a sudden spend 10 times the amount of money. Well, not necessarily 10 times, but 2 to 3 times the amount of money to have a PC that is just like on par with that console. Or if they want to go a little bit extra and have a beefier PC, they're not going to go from, oh, I'm a console player to, oh, I'm going to jump both feet into PC world. But you will have a lot of those that may, like myself and Mr. Babbitt with his Steam Deck. I got mine, but I haven't tried the remote play on it yet. But it's just one of those things where you're going to have a lot more people more willing to double dip. And I wish they would do the dual entitlement like Microsoft does, where if you buy like Flight Simulator on PC, you automatically own it on console. Because I want to be able to carry my experience over, cross save, cross progression, all that stuff. But the writing's been on the wall for some time. They made fun of Xbox for it. Oh, your games are not exclusive because they're on PC. And the ad or the old saying of, oh, well, who needs an Xbox when you can play it on PC? Well, obviously the consoles are selling still, even with the games being on PC. So the same will be said when it comes to the PlayStation. It's not like the console is going to magically disappear because it's on PC as well. But it just makes for more gameplay or more players, more people enjoying the experience, and probably helping Sony's bottom line. Not that they need help, but anything as far as a healthier bottom line is just going to mean more for the future of gaming for that platform. And who can be disappointed or argue with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Real quick, shout out to Jacob Novak. He says, about gaming, I know why I can't super chat, but chat. I've been shadow banned, stealth banned, which means that I have donated or chatted too much too fast. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. You didn't certainly get banned by us. So yeah, sorry about that. And brother, don't worry about the super chats. Your view is more than enough. We definitely appreciate the you being here. And of course, whenever you can super chat, we definitely appreciate the generosity. But Web Dave, let's get your final point on this as we close out this very special Breakfast with Boom. What are your thoughts on this big move? Because I think it's a huge move for Sony, and I applaud it. I love to see them step out of their comfort zone. I think Jim Ryan has this ideology that there are other places to make money that's not a PlayStation 4 or 5, and this is a smart business move. This allows them to invest in studios. This allows them to invest in bigger budget games. What are your thoughts on them moving to PC and Returnal being one of the big ones to come to PC? Do you think that's going to see some big sales numbers?
I think it could, for sure. I mean, it is a great game. Some people disagree with that. I bought it when it first came out.
And those people would be wrong, Asante.
That's my Asante. But I'm just kidding. But I didn't play it at first, and because all those warnings coming up about the hack, not hack, but I mean it would definitely like freeze it your save, and you could lose all your save. So I never played it. I never put it in. But I still own it. My son's got it now. I know it's been updated and patched to add multiplayer, and that's great. And I eventually will definitely get to it. But I mean it is absolutely a no-brainer to bring your games. If you consider the exclusive the console, then if you have a way of making more money by putting it on the PC as well, why not? I mean, that's like I said, Microsoft has really proven that it's a good point to do. And like you said, like Fuzzy was saying, being able to, cross your saves, you can play it on the PC, you can play it on your console, and your saves still work. That's fantastic. Cloud gaming as well. If and so those are all viable points that make it work financially. That the more places it is, the more money you're going to make. You're limited by your console sales, and of course, people will be like, well, PlayStation is this and that, and they are a great company. They are great, but I mean, even Ryan has seen that it's there are limits once you get to a certain sales number for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4. Where do you go from there? If you've reached your limit on that, and you have a great product that you can sell more of, why not put it on PC where it can make that much more money for the company without any really, a lot more work put into it? Because like I said, they've got teams now that can actually take those games and port them to PC. So it's a no-brainer. It's about time is the easy answer for that it's about time that they're doing it. I mean, when Ghost of Tsushima, however you pronounce it, sorry, comes to the PC, on Steam, I'm gonna buy it so that I can, even though I've already played it, beat it, everything.
One purchase.
Exactly.
I am
absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So much fun.
I'm a dummy, and I need to experience it all again.
No. We know it's good. It's what we enjoy. So why not, play it again? And then being on the Steam Deck, you can play it anywhere.
Yeah.
On the beach next to the thing.
Perfect.
But yeah, that's my point. I would think that it's a no-brainer for Sony to do it. I think they definitely, it's on the right track. Like I said, there are a few diehard fanboys that are like, that don't want this. They think it's a betrayal, and I don't see that at all. I think it's expanding the growth of their company. If they want Sony to continue to succeed and possibly continue to be the market leader, which for now they are, they need to do things to keep them in play. Yeah. But if they don't do those things, then they're definitely going to be left behind.
Yeah, great points from everybody. Joe, got a question for you. Bryant's Review drops an outstanding $5 from Jen. Says, Mr. Badbit, what happened to the Trophy Room podcast, man? I can't find it on YouTube anymore.
Can't find it on YouTube anymore. I'll talk to Mr. YouTube right now because we have an epic. I mean, it hasn't stopped. It's still on YouTube.
Brian, let me just say
on
this:
all podcast services.
Being that Joe jumped on, he wasn't scheduled to jump on. He jumped on to help us out because we were short people. I'm going to add all of his links specifically when the show goes to video on demand. Just go to the links. I'll have a link in his description of panel members and guests, and just click it, and you'll go right to the Trophy Room.
Hey, Joe.
I'll make sure that adds it.
Yeah, Joe, could that be your fans only page that he's talking about?
My OnlyFans page. Yeah, man. So it's OnlyFans /
Anyway, all right. So listen, folks, that's your show. That's your special edition Breakfast with Boom. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We had almost 400 people here, which is awesome. Let me just catch some of the super chats we had. Danny, Passion Official, dropped not one but two. He says, after a $2 super chat, like water and oil, emotions and business never together. 100%. Jerome TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, whoa, Colt just made a video about what was leaked going into E3, talking about the Xbox show. I'm hearing some things, folks. I don't know if this is a real list or not, but a lot of people are disappointed. I hope that's not in fact the case. But we'll see. I want to watch, actually go check out Colt's video right now. Danny Passion Official drops an additional $5 super chat and says, Colt.
Spoiler alert, the list is not true.
It's not true. Yeah, it's probably not.
Educated guessing.
It's educated guess, or maybe not educated guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who's to say? It's really a position of we'll have to find out and see. Listen, June 12th is here in 2 weeks, folks. We're gonna figure it out.
In there.
Danny Passion Official again. He says, KOTOR exclusive to Xbox sounds good. Emotions. It was profitable? Business. WHT, I mean, or what he means is that on business, not all deals are as they look. Yeah, I mean, that's also a great point. And Coachman 2236, who has been a member for over a year of the channel. Wow, brother, thank you so much for that. He says, hey, Boom, in Colt's latest video, he's saying a next-gen remaster of Banjo will be shown. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I've never cried on camera, but I am telling you, either I'm going to fall out of my chair, either I'm going to be emotional. It's going to be leave Britney alone kind of a situation, and I'm going to be famous. But something is going to happen if they announce Banjo, folks. You don't understand. Platformers. I'm an old man. You got to understand. Platformers mean so much more to me than so many other people. People like platformers. Oh, yeah, but for me, the old man, 52 in September. It means a lot to me. 52. I'll be 52 in September. I'm old.
Not as old as me, buddy.
And listen, it's fine. It is what we all eventually have to get old. But listen, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us on again a special edition on a Thursday edition of Breakfast with Boom. Joe, I want you to sell your brand, brother, please. You got to tell everyone about the best PlayStation podcast in the business. The Trophy Room every week, real passionate. You and Kyle bring it every time you do a show. Big opinions, fun opinions, but they're never catty. If you want a PlayStation podcast to listen to, you got to tune into the Trophy Room. Joe, sell your brand, brother.
Yeah, no, we're not like those other ones that like either fanboy out or act like it's doomsday. It is just two guys talking about a brand that they admire without getting fanboyish, just talking shop. Yeah, and that's what the Trophy Room's all about. Each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest and greatest in all things PlayStation. You can find us on YouTube after I beat up Mr. YouTube himself. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can rate us 5 stars there because it really does help us out. And that's where we're at. You can find me over at Mr. Badbit. You can find the show at PS Trophy Room on Twitter. And Boom, I always love doing these shows, man. When you texted me, I had to answer the call. So thank you for having me. I gotta now jump off real quick because I have a surprise meeting in 4 minutes. So everybody,
take care of
business,
business,
you all
brother. Thank you so much. Love you, Joe. We'll be talking soon.
You guys.
See you, Joe.
Later.
All right, Web Dave, let's sell your brand, brother. If you don't know, Dave is relatively new to the community, but he's been doing some absolutely outrageous interviews with some of the community's absolute finest and best. He is someone that I'm proud to say have given a podium for him to sell his brand. He does great work. He's a stout member of this community. If you're not following him on Twitter, it's a mistake. If you're not subscribed to his YouTube channel, you're missing out on some incredible one-on-ones. Dave, sell your brand, brother.
Thank you so much, Boom. I really appreciate that. Outbreak Gaming is a YouTube channel. Outbreak Podcast. I messed up my own tagline. That's great. Yay, look what I can do. But yeah, and our link is in the description of this too. Thanks to Mr. BoomStick. But yeah, I had some great interviews. I had like John Wolf is currently up there now. Ashton Luca, N64, Josh, Dealer, Randall Thor 19, Dreadpool, Fuzzy Belvedere, Mr. Boomstick, they're both up there as well. Next week, I'm gonna have a Gaming Forte on. I've got some other interviews in the works that I'm really excited about, and we'll just have to see what's next. But every week I try and drop at least one, sometimes 2 if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you, Boom. Thank you so much.
I saw someone say that they're playing the Maverick DLC for Flight Sim. Yes. I got to get down with that. I heard it's supposed to be absolutely amazing. He said, who was it? Yeah, Sin, good friend of the program. Sin, welcome, brother. He says, have a great Memorial Day, Top Gun Maverick weekend, folks. Thank you so much for that.
Helicopters.
And definitely appreciate the well wishes. But yeah, I gotta play that. But I gotta finish my Battle Pass as soon as this show is done. I'm jumping on Halo because I'm 2 levels away, and I'm gonna finish that Battle Pass today. Fuzzy Belvedere, please, by all means, while Forza's on the screen, your favorite racer, tell everyone about your incredible YouTube channel dedicated to the world of racing, but also big gaming opinions. tell them where they can find that on YouTube, and where can people follow you on social media.
Well, just want to thank you, Boom, for having me on here for this special, Breakfast with Boom. It was awesome being on here with you guys, and awesome having everyone in the chat interact. And even though we don't always agree, it's always fun to, talk gaming in general. But for those that want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Twitter at @fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also follow my YouTube or subscribe to my YouTube at @fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also catch me tomorrow on Xbox Ultimate on Fun Speculations channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On Saturday on PTK Blam's channel, the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam and Pong Soul at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Monday on FSP with Mav, Psychonauts, 3-Bit, Lower Master Jasper, and myself at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And look forward to seeing you guys next week here on Thursday, same time, same place on Boom's channel for Breakfast with Boom. It's always great being on here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. And of course, I want to say a big thank you to all the super chats that came in. Once again, the generosity is just it's humbling beyond words. Definitely appreciate everyone that has become a channel member, is considering becoming a channel member, and of course dropping the daily super chats. It is unbelievably welcomed, and we are tremendously grateful. And of course, we Mrs. Boomstick and I want to wish everyone a very happy Memorial Day weekend. Be safe. Don't drink and drive, folks. Yes, the Popo and me coming out. Please don't do that, because you ruin lives, not just your own, but your own families and someone else you could potentially hurt. So do not drink and drive, especially when there's going to be a lot of kids. It's the summer, right? So kids are on the road. Be careful with that. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me, folks. Hopefully one day important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he used to say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. He says, you live by those rules, son, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next Thursday on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.